Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever thought a single penny couldn't change a life, today's story will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Imagine finding a 1-cent coin in your attic, brushing off decades of dust, and realizing it's not just rare, it's a piece of history valued at a staggering $46 million. That's exactly what happened in one of the most fascinating and unexpected turns in the world of numismatics. Grab your favorite drink, sit back, and buckle in, because this isn't just a story about a coin. It's a journey through secrets, luck, betrayal, and unimaginable fortune tied to a seemingly ordinary 1989 1-cent coin. Our story begins in a small Midwestern town that rarely makes headlines. Glenridge, Indiana, population 2,300, where life moves at the pace of cornfields growing and neighbors greet each other by name. It's the kind of place where change happens slowly, and treasures are more often found in stories passed down through generations than in bank vaults or auctions. But in the fall of 2021, Glenridge became the epicenter of a numismatic miracle. 72-year-old Harold Beckett had lived in the same house his entire life. It was the home he was born in, the home he raised his children in, and the home he was now growing old in, alone after the passing of his wife, Marlene. Harold wasn't a collector, not in the traditional sense. But he did have a strange habit: he never threw away coins. Any coin he received, from any transaction, he'd toss into one of several large mason jars. Quarters, nickels, dimes, even pennies, no matter the denomination or age. He never counted them, never spent them, just collected, as if something in his bones told him there might be magic in metal. Harold's granddaughter, Lindsay, a college student home for the holidays, offered to help clean out the attic, a dusty storage space Harold hadn't touched in over 2 decades. Boxes of Marlene's old clothes, books with cracked spines, faded photos, and of course, jars upon jars of coins. They were all there, undisturbed since the early 90s. Lindsay, jokingly calling it the Great Treasure Hunt, began sorting through them, more out of nostalgia than curiosity. One of the jars, heavier than the rest, slipped from the shelf and shattered on the attic floor. Pennies rolled across the wooden boards, and as Harold stooped to help Lindsay gather them, one coin caught his eye, not because it was shinier, but because it was duller, older looking, almost like it didn't belong. It was a 1989 1-cent coin, but it looked off. Slightly thicker than a normal penny. The color seemed unusual too, almost a bronze hue with a unique luster, like it had been preserved in amber. Harold examined it closely. The design was the same, Lincoln staring solemnly to the right, but the D mint mark was missing. That was strange. He remembered that in 1989, Denver had minted a large batch of pennies. This one should have had a D. He turned it over. The Lincoln Memorial was there, but there were subtle design inconsistencies. The pillars were slightly misaligned, and there seemed to be a faint doubling in the inscription. 1 cent. Curious, but not thinking too much of it, Harold placed the coin in his shirt pocket. That night, after Lindsay had gone to bed, he pulled out an old laptop and began researching error coins, key dates, and minting anomalies. The more he read, the more questions arose. Could this be a mule coin? A misprint? Or perhaps a prototype? The idea seemed absurd at first, until he found a forum post from a collector in 2004, referencing an unverified rumor about a special batch of experimental coins struck at a secret facility in Philadelphia during the late 80s. The post claimed that these coins were never meant to enter circulation, part of a top-secret metallurgy project aiming to test alternative compositions for the penny due to rising copper costs. According to the post, only 7 test coins were believed to have been minted in this trial batch, and all 7 were thought to have been destroyed after the program was cancelled in early 1990. Harold's hands trembled as he took the coin back out. Could this be one of them? He reached out to the Numismatic Authentication Institute, a small but prestigious group known for appraising high-value and rare coins. Within a week, a representative named Claire Muldoon flew out to Indiana. She'd authenticated some of the rarest coins in American history, and carried herself with an unshakable calm. But even she couldn't hide her astonishment when she examined Harold's coin under a microscope. Claire confirmed what Harold had only dared to hope. This wasn't just a misprint, or an error. It was a lost piece of numismatic lore, a 1989 experimental 1-cent prototype, struck with a highly rare bronze alloy, without a mint mark, and possessing an extremely rare double die reverse. It was one of the fabled ghost batch coins that had been whispered about for decades but never confirmed. Harold's coin wasn't just rare, it was possibly unique. Word spread like wildfire. Within weeks, Harold was inundated with offers. Private collectors called day and night. Museums sent letters. A mysterious buyer from Dubai offered $18 million sight unseen. But Harold, a man who had never cared much for money, hesitated. He wasn't sure he could trust the sudden swarm of attention. Then, a message came from Stanton Richards, one of the world's most respected numismatists, who offered to host a private auction through the International Rare Coin Exchange. The auction was scheduled for March 15, 2022. Only 8 invited collectors were allowed to attend, each vetted through a rigorous background check. On the day of the event, the coin was placed in a bulletproof display case, and Harold was flown to New York City, all expenses paid. Bidding began at $10 million. Within minutes, it surpassed $20 million, then $30 million. The final bid, sealed and anonymous, came in at $46 million. The highest amount ever paid for a 1-cent coin in history. Harold was stunned. With tears in his eyes, he accepted the offer, and overnight the quiet man from Glenridge became one of the wealthiest residents in Indiana. But Harold, true to his nature, didn't rush out to buy a mansion or a yacht. Instead, he set up a foundation in Marlene's name, funding college scholarships and community projects across the Midwest. The coin's new owner remained anonymous for months, until an article in a niche collector's journal revealed it had been acquired by a private museum in Switzerland, where it now rests in a climate-controlled vault, viewed by appointment only. Some claim the coin may be even more valuable now, possibly exceeding $60 million due to its legendary status and extreme scarcity. But not everyone was thrilled by Harold's good fortune. Shortly after the auction, a man named Wallace Kane surfaced, claiming to be the rightful owner of the coin. Wallace, a former employee of the Philadelphia Mint in the late 1980s, asserted that he had handled the very prototypes in question and that the coin was likely smuggled out by an unknown colleague. He accused Harold of unknowingly possessing stolen government property and threatened legal action. The case drew national attention, but after months of investigation, no conclusive evidence linked Harold's coin to any theft. The statute of limitations had long passed, and no records of the coin's existence were ever made public to begin with. Wallace's case was dismissed, but the controversy only added to the coin's legend. Conspiracy theories began to swirl. Some believed the government had ordered the destruction of the test batch not because of budget cuts, but due to a metallurgical flaw that could have exposed national security secrets. Others claimed the coin was part of a larger, hidden stash meant to finance covert operations. A few even believed that the coin wasn't American at all, but rather a foreign forgery planted during the Cold War. Despite the wild speculation, one thing remained certain. Harold's discovery had changed his life forever, and in doing so, rewrote the history of American coinage. Today, numismatists refer to the coin as the phantom cent, a nod to its ghostly origins and mysterious survival. It has inspired documentaries, podcasts, and even a feature-length screenplay currently in development. Schools use Harold's story as a lesson in patience, history, and the unexpected value of overlooked things. Harold, now retired comfortably in a new house just outside Glenridge, often tells visitors, "I didn't find that coin. It found me." He still keeps a few jars of change, more out of habit than hope. But every once in a while, he'll pick up a penny, squint at the date, and smile. Who knew a 1-cent coin could be worth $46 million? And that brings us to the end of today's incredible story. If you enjoyed this journey and want to hear more unbelievable true tales from the world of treasure, mystery, and hidden fortune, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another adventure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Next, this particular one? It's worth a jaw-dropping $30 million. Yes, you heard that right, $30 million for a 1992 1-cent coin. So sit back and get comfortable, because this isn't just a story about copper and zinc. It's a wild journey of mystery, discovery, obsession, and the unbelievable events that led one man to uncover the rarest of rarities in the most unexpected of places. It all began in the quiet town of Manchester, Iowa, in the fall of 2018. A man named Eli Peterson, a retired high school history teacher and lifelong collector of just about anything, from baseball cards to old tools, was going through a dusty box of coins he had picked up at a garage sale. He'd paid $5 for the box, mostly out of curiosity and nostalgia. He wasn't expecting anything more than a few old wee pennies and maybe a silver dime if he was lucky. Eli had no idea that inside that plain, slightly water-damaged shoebox, mixed among dozens of tarnished coins, was a penny that would soon become the most valuable ever discovered in North America. As he sifted through the contents with a magnifying glass under the flickering light of his basement workshop, his eyes landed on something unusual. A 1992 penny with a peculiarity he couldn't quite put his finger on at first. The design looked off, not in a damaged or worn-out way, but in a way that hinted at something far more important. At first, he thought it was just a regular penny. But the more he stared at it, the more he felt there was something odd about the inscription on the obverse. He pulled out his reference books and started flipping through coin guides. What he was looking at, though he didn't know it at the time, was the incredibly rare and valuable 1992 close AM penny, a coin so rare, only a handful are known to exist, and none had ever been verified in such pristine condition. The close AM variation refers to the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse side of the penny. In most 1992 pennies, these letters are clearly separated, known as the wide AM. But due to a minting error, a few pennies that year were struck using a proof die that had the A and M almost touching, a design only meant for special proof coins. Somehow, that die made it into regular circulation, and the result was a minuscule design difference that transformed a penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Eli compared the coins side by side with others from the same year, and the difference was undeniable. The A and M were nearly touching. His heart began to race. He turned to his coin forums online, carefully uploading macro photos for feedback. The responses were cautious at first, then stunned. "That looks like a close AM," one user commented. Another wrote, "If that's real, it's the find of a lifetime." The messages poured in. Still unsure and unwilling to get his hopes up, Eli contacted a professional grading service and mailed in the coin under high security. Weeks went by. Then the call came. Not only was it confirmed to be an authentic 1992 close AM penny, but it was graded as Mint State 67 red, an almost unheard of condition for a coin that had somehow survived decades without a scratch or sign of wear. The coin was perfect. And suddenly, Eli Peterson's quiet retirement was anything but. News of the discovery spread like wildfire in the numismatic world. Collectors were in disbelief. How could such a pristine example of a known rarity surface out of nowhere, and in such an unlikely place? Offers began pouring in almost immediately. Private collectors, museums, even celebrities with a penchant for rare finds began placing bids. But it was a phone call from an anonymous billionaire that changed everything. The offer? $30 million. Eli was stunned. He had spent most of his life living modestly, teaching students about history and collecting little mementos of the past. Now, he was being offered a fortune for a coin that he almost threw into a jar with the rest of his pocket change. After much deliberation, and a few sleepless nights, he accepted the offer. The coin was sold in a discreet, high-security transfer. And just like that, Eli Peterson became the most unlikely millionaire in Iowa's history. But the story didn't end there. The sale of the 1992 close AM penny sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Collectors everywhere began scouring their collections, hoping they might have one of the elusive coins. Garage sales, estate auctions, and coin shows saw a sudden surge in interest. People who had never cared about coins before were now obsessively flipping through their change. The close AM craze, as it came to be known, had begun, and it wasn't just about finding another 1992 close AM. It was about what it represented, a reminder that the most valuable treasures are sometimes hiding in plain sight. For every collector who had ever been dismissed or overlooked, Eli's discovery was a vindication. And for those who had never given a second thought to the coins jingling in their pockets, it was a wake-up call. As for Eli, his life changed dramatically. But he didn't rush to buy mansions or sports cars. Instead, he used his newfound wealth to fund scholarships for students interested in history and to build a small but state-of-the-art local museum focused on everyday American artifacts, things like milk bottle caps, soda cans, typewriters, and, of course, coins. He wanted to preserve the kinds of objects that tell the real story of America, not the grand, sweeping narratives of wars and presidents, but the tiny, forgotten pieces of life that often go unnoticed. The centerpiece of the museum? A high-resolution, 3D printed replica of the 1992 close AM penny, along with a detailed exhibit on its history, minting error, and the unbelievable journey that led to its discovery. Visitors came from all over the country to see it. Kids dragged their parents. School buses lined the streets. And Eli himself could often be found there, giving informal tours and telling his story with the same calm enthusiasm he once brought to his high school lectures. The impact of that little coin rippled far beyond the world of collectors. It reignited interest in U.S. mint history, leading to documentaries, books, and even a feature-length film adaptation. Eli consulted on the script. He insisted they get the coin details right. Meanwhile, the anonymous billionaire who purchased the coin remained, well, anonymous, until a shocking revelation during a live interview on a late-night talk show. The guest, an eccentric tech mogul known for his unconventional investments, casually mentioned, "Oh yeah, I bought a $30 million penny. It's on my desk next to a fossilized trilobite and a piece of a Mars rover." The audience laughed, but he was serious. He described the coin as a symbol of overlooked genius, and claimed that he had it encased in bulletproof glass, surrounded by motion sensors, and displayed under museum-grade lighting in his office. "Every time I look at it," he said, "I'm reminded that value is everywhere. You just have to be the one to recognize it." That 1-cent coin became a cultural icon. Artists used it as inspiration. Musicians wrote songs about it. One indie band even named their album Close AM. Teachers started using the story in classrooms to illustrate everything from economics to probability to the importance of paying attention to details. But perhaps the most remarkable legacy was the way it changed lives. After Eli's story went viral, countless others began examining their own collections. And while no other $30 million pennies surfaced, dozens of rare coins were found, coins that had been sitting in drawers, piggy banks, and junk boxes for years. Families paid off mortgages. College tuition got covered. Retirements were funded. All because of one old coin that someone once dropped without a second thought. And so, the story of the 1992 close AM penny became more than just a collector's tale. It became a story of hope, of curiosity, and of the incredible things that can happen when ordinary people take a closer look at the world around them. So the next time you get a penny back in change, don't just toss it in a jar. Take a second. Flip it over. Look closely. You never know, there might be a $30 million surprise hiding in plain sight. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this incredible story about one of the most valuable coins in history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another unbelievable discovery. We've got plenty more stories like this coming your way. See you in the next one. Last, what if I told you that a tiny, unassuming coin from 2003, a simple 1-cent coin, turned out to be worth a staggering $12 million? That's right, $12 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend over to pick up. This isn't just about money, though. This is a tale that involves a forgotten coin, a man on the edge of financial ruin, a twist of fate, and a history that connects generations. Grab your seat and stay with us, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see the world in your pocket. It all began with a man named Carl Whitmore. In 2019, Carl was living in the outskirts of Seattle, Washington. He had once been a thriving antiques dealer with a small but loyal clientele. His shop, nestled in an old red-brick building on a quiet corner of a suburban street, was filled with relics of the past: grandfather clocks, tarnished silverware, faded maps, and dusty old books. But business had slowed down dramatically with the rise of online marketplaces, and Carl, already in his early 60s, found himself struggling to adapt. The rent was overdue, the bills were piling up, and his only employee had just quit. One chilly March morning, Carl sat alone in his shop, sipping on lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug and staring blankly at the clock on the wall. Time was ticking, not just on the clock but on his entire livelihood. That very same day, a local woman named Maria Ellison walked in, lugging a cardboard box filled with random household items. She was clearing out her late uncle's garage and hoped to get a few dollars in return. Carl barely looked up from his coffee when she explained what was inside: some kitchenware, old photographs, a stack of magazines, and a small metal tin that once held breath mints. Carl had seen it all before. He offered her $20 for the lot, just enough to make it worth both their time. Maria agreed, took the money, and left without a second thought. Carl pushed the box into a corner, and didn't touch it for weeks. It wasn't until a rainy afternoon in late April that Carl finally decided to go through the box. The shop had been dead quiet for days, and he figured he might as well sort through the stuff before tossing what was useless. He opened the tin first. Inside, there were a few old buttons, some Canadian coins, and what appeared to be a regular 2003 Lincoln cent. Carl was about to throw it into his change jar, but something caught his eye. The coin had an odd shine to it. It looked too pristine, almost untouched by time. Even more peculiar, it felt slightly heavier than a normal penny. Curiosity piqued, Carl held it under his magnifying glass. At first glance, it seemed like any other 1-cent piece. Abraham Lincoln's profile. The word, Liberty. The year 2003 stamped just under the curve of his shoulder. But then Carl turned it over. Instead of the expected Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse side, the coin displayed an odd misalignment. The image seemed slightly off-center. Even stranger, the edges appeared thicker than usual. A small mark that resembled a double die, where the coin is struck twice by the die, causing a shadowy or doubled image, was visible near the E pluribus unum text. Carl had seen mint errors before, and while most were minor, a few could be incredibly valuable. His pulse quickened. He pulled out his old reference books, flipped through pages, and looked up error coin types. This one didn't exactly match any of the known varieties. Could it be something new? Unsure, but increasingly intrigued, Carl snapped a few photos and posted them on an online numismatics forum. He titled the post simply, "Strange 2003 penny, possible mint error?" The responses came quickly. At first, most users dismissed it as a common cent with minor wear. But then a collector named Harold Dubray chimed in. Harold was a retired engineer and longtime coin enthusiast with a sharp eye for rare finds. He asked Carl to take high-resolution scans and to describe the weight of the coin down to the milligram. Carl complied, and within 24 hours, Harold sent back a message that would change everything. Harold believed the coin wasn't just a mint error. He suspected it was a transitional planchet error, a rare condition where a coin is struck using a blank planchet, meant for a different denomination or year. These kinds of errors were not supposed to happen, especially in modern mints with automated error detection. But when they did, the coins could be worth astronomical sums. Harold had only seen one coin like it before, in a museum collection in Europe. That one had never been sold, and experts estimated its value at over $10 million. Carl's hands trembled as he reread the message. Could it really be? He quickly packaged the coin and sent it to the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, for authentication and grading. The waiting period was agonizing. Days turned into weeks. He told no one, not even his sister or closest friend. He barely slept. Every time his phone buzzed, he jumped. Then, one morning in June, the envelope arrived. Inside was a sealed holder with the coin inside and a grading certificate. Carl opened it with shaking fingers. The certificate read, PCGSMS 67 read. 2003 Lincoln Cent Transitional Planchet Error. Unique specimen. The market value listed on the certificate was a jaw-dropping estimate, $12 million. Carl stared at the paper, his mouth dry. It felt surreal, like a dream. But it was real. News of the discovery exploded in the numismatic community. Articles were published. Interviews were requested. Collectors from around the world reached out. Within a month, Carl had been contacted by a wealthy private collector from Dubai who offered to buy the coin outright for the full estimated price. Carl accepted the offer. The transaction was done quietly, with lawyers and security present. The money wired to his account was very, very real. Carl used the money to pay off his debts, remodel his shop, and set up a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth interested in history and antiques. He didn't change much about his life. He still ran the same shop, still drank the same lukewarm coffee. But he walked with a new sense of peace, knowing that the smallest object, something as overlooked as a penny, had saved his life. The story of Carl and the 2003 1-cent coin rippled beyond the coin world. It sparked a new wave of interest in pocket change. People began checking their coins more carefully. Videos went viral of people sifting through jars of pennies, hoping to find their own golden ticket. But nothing quite like Carl's coin ever surfaced again. It remained a one-of-a-kind anomaly, a perfect storm of error, timing, and lucked out as for the collector who bought the coin. Little is known about him. He remains anonymous, his identity guarded fiercely by intermediaries. Some say he displays the coin in a private gallery only open to select guests. Others claim it's locked away in a temperature-controlled vault, insured for nearly twice the purchase price. Regardless of where it sits now, its legacy lives on. The 2003 1-cent coin worth $12 million is more than just a rare minting mistake. It's a symbol. A reminder that value can hide in plain sight. That fortune can come from the most unexpected places. That a person on the brink can be pulled back by something as simple as curiosity and a keen eye. Carl Whitmore's story reminds us that life can turn around in an instant, that what we overlook can sometimes hold the most power, and that in the world of coins, even a penny can become a legend. So the next time you get a handful of change, don't toss it aside. Take a moment. Look closely. Who knows? The next multi-million-dollar coin could be right there in your palm, just waiting for someone to see what others missed. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this incredible story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more unbelievable tales from the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. See you in the next one.